Hi, this is Jennifer, and I want to show you how to set up a really simple rubric you can use with all of your projects, whether you're doing project-based learning or your students are just doing a project attached to a unit you're doing. This is a great way to grade them. You can use this if they're turning in an iMovie, if they're turning in something in eBackpack, or if you have them creating a slideshow or a keynote. This could work for all kinds of different projects. And we're going to set it up so that you can reuse it over and over and over again. So the first thing we've got to do, we're going to need several pieces to make this work. We first need a Google form. And so this is just a really simple Google form. I named it PBL project, but you can name it whatever you want. You're going to want a question that is the name of the student. You're going to want a question that is their email, and then you're going to want a project question. Now, I'll show you how to set these up in a little bit, but let's go down to the rubric. Now, if I was doing this for real in a class, I would have more information on this. So my first category is ideas. I have it broken down into 4 different point values, and I would have some verbiage there that said, okay, 1 is this and 2 is this, so that students, when they see they got a 4, can kind of understand why they got that instead of a 3 or a 5. I just put in ideas, organization, style, mechanics, and then I gave a spot for you to give them the grade and then any comments that you'd want to make. This is very simple, and you probably already have a rubric that you could use for this. It may be more complicated. It may be simpler than this. This is a great example. So I want to reuse this rubric over and over and over again. I don't want to have to make a new one every time. So for starters, I want to use my name category. Instead of having a fill in the blank where I have to type in the name, I want to use a drop down, and I want to populate it with the names of my students. I also want to do that for email, because what we're setting up is going to automatically email your student their grade on the project, and we want to make sure that's correct. Well, if you're like me, I'm always messing up typing in emails. So it's a great way to do this. At the beginning of your semester, I would have my students fill out a form that looks like this. Very simple. Their name, their email. And so what you end up getting is a spreadsheet like this. So I have the names, their emails, and I have added an additional column, which is projects. And I'm going to show you why that's important in just a second. Notice that this project column, the PBL column, was not part of the form. It's just something I added on just to simplify my life. So let's go back to that form rubric. So what I did was I used a form add-on called Form Ranger to automatically populate this question. I used it for the name question, the email question, and then I'm going to show you how it works in the project question. Now, why I like to use this on some Google Forms is because I can change the spreadsheet where the information is coming from, and it automatically fixes my Google form. So if I have a student that comes in or leaves, then I can make that change in my spreadsheet, and I don't have to worry about changing it in all the forms that I've put those students' name in. That's also nice for the project category, because that way I don't have to remake my rubric every time. I just add another category into the spreadsheet, and it automatically pulls it into the form so I can select it the next time I grade a new project. So let me show you how Form Ranger works. So at the top of my Google form, I'm going to need an add-on. If you've never done an add-on in Google Forms, you're going to come to the 3 buttons that are More. You're going to come down to the bottom, and you're going to select Add-ons. And you're going to use this little search bar to type in Form Ranger, and I see that it's already viewable, and there it is. Now, you would have an add button right here where mine says manage if you didn't have it already. So you just select that, and it would automatically add that as an optional tool. And once you have add-ons, you get this puzzle piece here. So I'm going to select that puzzle piece. I'm going to come down to Form Ranger, which is what I want to use. And it's going to allow me to customize some of these questions. This little window starts opening at the right-hand side, and then I get to decide question by question, what do I want? So you'll see that I've already used this feature to populate my name question and my email question. Now I want it to populate my project question. So I'm going to make sure I checkbox that, and then I'm going to come down to my list and find something that has my information in it. So if I don't see the name of the roster that I want, I come to the new values list, and it's going to open up my Google Sheets so I can pick which one I want it to come from. So I want it to come from this roster. So I'll select it. And then it shows me what shows up on there. So on that particular roster, I have 4 columns. Timestamp, well, I don't want that. Name I've already used. Email I've already used. The PBL column, that's where my projects are. So that's the one I want to populate my question. And then it allows me to give it a little name so that I can come back to it later if I'd like to. So I'm going to save, populate the question. And then it's going to pull in that list of projects right there. See how that worked? So this is a great way to dynamically be able to make changes in your form as things change just by updating the sheet. So I have my rubric in a form created. So that's my first step. My second step is to make sure I have a template. Now, this is what the template looks like. I'm going to spot for their name, for the project, especially if I use this over and over and the name of the project changes. And then I want a place where each of their scores is going to go in. I want a place where my comment and my grade are going to go in. So if you remember my form, all of these that have the carets around them are responses on the form. And so this is traditionally a mail merge. It's telling the computer each of the questions, fill in on this template, and then they're going to send an email to the students with this information. So I've got my template, I've got my Google form. Now let's set up the magic. And we do that in our spreadsheet that is getting the forms, the form responses. So if you've never done that part, you'll go to the form, head to responses, which is one toggle over here, and select this sheet option. And that makes the spreadsheet where your responses go in. And this is where we'll set up the add-on. So I'm going to come to add-ons here in the menu. I'm going to go to Autocrat because I already have it. If you don't have Autocrat, you're going to see the options down here to get an add-on or to manage the ones you already have. So you would search for Autocrat just like we did for Form Ranger in the form. And then I'm going to open it and I'm going to set up this merge job. It takes just a little bit. Now, once I have this merge job set up, it's going to do 2 things. When I respond to the Google form, because I've used the rubric to grade a student project, it's going to generate a PDF that goes to the student in their email, and it's going to make me a copy of it in a folder so that I can organize all of what the students have sent me. So it's a really great documentation feature and a way to give students feedback. So I'm going to start a new job here, and I'm going to call it Dystopian Project because that is the project that I'm going to grade here. And I'm going to click Next. So if I need the template that I'm going to put my answers into. So if I don't see it, I can use the From Form option here, and it will navigate out to my Google Drive and let me find it. But here's my PBL rubric right here. So I'm going to select Use. And then it's going to look for all of those tags inside of my rubric to match up with my form. So name matched up. Notice PBL project, it's got a little tag that says, oop, you better look for it. And as I go through, I see project right here. It's not the exact same name with the exact same capitalization, so it didn't recognize it. You'll see ideas, organization, style, mechanics, those all got pulled in, comments, oops, but my grade also doesn't match. So let's see what it's called. The difference there is just capitalization. So it will automatically pull in your information and match it up if they're matched perfectly. If not, you have to kind of map it yourself, but that doesn't take much time. Now, how do I want these projects to be named when the file comes to me and the file goes to my student? I'm going to use this little pullover on the left-hand side, and I'm going to want my files to be named name. So I want it to be whatever the students give us what their name is. I'm going to toss that in. So click on it and drop that in. And then I'm going to also want it to be named after the project. So let me find the project option, click on it, put my cursor over there, Control V, and drop it in, or Command V, depending on what machine you're on. I want my students to get this as a PDF. Now, if it was a Google document, they could edit it. And I never want a situation where my students go, oh, but you gave me a 5 and your paper says you gave me a 3, because they've edited their Google document. So to eliminate that, I'm going to do a PDF so they can't change it. And then I'm going to select Next. Now, where do I want all these finished rubrics to go? I've got a folder called Graded PBL, or Graded Rubrics. PBL Graded, that's what it's called. And I'm going to select that. And every time the form produces a new document, it's going to go in that folder. Now, I don't care about step 6 and step 7. That's if I was running a really fancy back end to this, and I'm not interested in that for this project. Now, share document. Do I want the students to get a copy? If I don't want the students to get a copy, I just leave this and move on to the next step. But I do want my students to have that feedback. So I'm going to select yes. And then I'm going to decide, how do I want the kids to get it? I'm going to leave PDF because I like that option. And then down here, I set up the email that's going to generate to the students. So my to field needs to be their email. So I'm going to use that to tell the computer to pull the field in that's the student email. I'm going to give them my email to reply to so they can email me if they need to. I'm going to say this email is going to be called Dystopian Project Rubric. And then I'm going to give them just a little bit of attached is your graded rubric for this project. And then I'll sign my name. And then I'll hit next. So the last step is to decide, how do I want to trigger the merge job? So there's 2 options. If I wanted the students to, every time I graded their project, that they automatically got the score, then I would do this first one, run on form trigger, because that tells the computer that as soon as I submit, it generates this report and it emails it to the student. My experience in grading projects is I may sit down and grade 5 or 6, and then I get interrupted, and I grade 8 or 9, and then I get interrupted, and then I go home and I grade some on the weekend. So that might not be the best option, because you will have some students getting their grades early, then they'll start talking to each other. Well, you haven't graded, or she hasn't done this. And it might be the easiest thing if you set it up to grade on a timer. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say, yes, I want it on a timer, and then I'm going to select how long. Now, my guess is that 24 hours will be plenty of time. I can always go and run the merge job manually. So if I get all of my projects graded and I want to run it before the 24-hour time limit, I can, but it's just a good feature to have that option. And then I'm going to click Save. Now, it's telling the computer all of these settings that I've just set up, and it's saving that merge job. So here's my dystopian project. You'll notice as I hover over, I've got some options to delete it, to edit it. They also have this play button, so I can manually run the job if it's not yet 24 hours. I also have these little icons to tell me that students are going to get an email and that it's running on a timer and not a form submit. So let's go and make this happen. So let's pretend like I am grading a project. So I'm going to drop down. This is going to be Kim Zeckley's project. We're going to send this to her. We're doing the dystopian project. She had some really great ideas. I'm going to do a 4. Let's see, her organization is a 4. Her style could a little bit to be desired, but her mechanics were great. No errors. So this project is going to be, if I did my math and my calculations, we're going to say that's about an 80. And then I have a spot to put comments. Great job, Kim. Keep up the good work. And then I'm going to click Submit. So if I was sitting in my class and doing a bunch of these grading, then I would just click Submit another response and fill it out for the next student. You could use the tab glue, tab scissors to lay your project next to each other. If you had like a Google slideshow, if you had something in e-backpack that you wanted to set up side by side, and you could grade it that way and then submit as you go. So I'm going to come back to my responses here, and you'll see that Kim Zeckley's the response with her grade has populated. And just to show you the back end, I'm going to go ahead and run this job. Of course, it's not been 24 hours, so it will automatically run it if I had waited for 24 hours. But I want to show you what this looks like. So this is going to generate two things: an email to Kim with the spreadsheet, as well as a copy of that template in the form that I can have in my account. It's just going to take a little bit. And notice that it's merging both of them. So until you kind of get this figured out, you may end up with more than one report. So here, let's go back to my folder. I have in my drive, I have a folder called Autocrat Rubric. And the folder that I was putting these guys in was the PBL graded. And here is the template that went to Kim. So from the responses I put in my form, this is what was filled out, and then this is what my student would get, as well as I would get in my in that folder. And you'll notice that if I wanted to, I could add some additional folders organized. So if Kim's not in the same class as Jennifer, we could organize them the way we wanted. You could also get a little bit more specific. If you wanted it to be student first name and last name in alphabetical order, and I mean, you could make that as complicated or as simple as you want. But you see how easy it was to create that rubric, set up the template, and the students got their own feedback. You got a copy of the feedback. And it's a form you can use over and over again by using Form Ranger. So as you change your projects, you just change the spreadsheet that's populating the form, and it's dynamic and constantly updating. So I hope you find this helpful. If you need some help, come see me in the library. I'm happy to help. Have a great day.